locked in.
Look at what we have here, folks.
To the only show that matters.
The cream of the crop.
Duke Loves Rasslin.
And there is no one that does it better than
your host.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
The Duke.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
The Maharajah!
Are we already? We're starting so early with the Jinder stuff.
That's right. That's right. Listen, you respect the Maharajah, Jinder Mahal, a.k.a. your mama's favorite wrestler.
You don't know what my mom is into.
She's into Jinder. Hey, don't hinder Jinder, okay?
Well, you know, it's funny because for a minute I thought you said Maharishi, which is different. Like the Beatles spent time with the Maharishi.
No.
So don't confuse the two.
No, you're confused.
You don't want to confuse the two.
You're confused.
Because Maharajah is like Prince.
Yeah.
Like a, and then Maharishi is like a teacher.
Okay.
But it's look at, I'm educating the listeners.
Is that what you're doing?
Well, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was where the Beatles spent some time in India. Sitar music, transcendental meditation.
You say that like our listeners wouldn't know that. I don't understand.
It's a little something. Not everyone knows that. Not everyone's up on the British invasion bands.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just trying to tell you.
Yeah.
Have you tried the transcendental meditation?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good stuff.
I can't pay it. I can't sit still long enough for that.
Are you kidding?
Nah, although I like the idea that you could potentially fly. Like if you master it, when you get to the upper levels, that you can, I don't know what that means. If it's spiritual flying,
just hitting a different level
physical flying, I don't know what. But I mean, I like. Who doesn't want to fly?
Of course.
But I don't know. I don't have the attention span for it, and I have even less attention span for this show. So let's get it moving.
Whatever, wise guy. Welcome back to Duke Loves Rasslin. I am the Duke, and yes, I do enjoy doing pro wrestling impersonations. I'm going to keep on doing them, no matter what my illustrious co-host, the Boston bad boy Iron Mike Pelosi, says. Yeah. And you sit there and you take that, my friend. What's it like being the MC for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremonies? And what kind of guy is Jinder Mahal really? We're going to find out because we have our friend, the legendary referee, James Beard. He's back to join us. We also have your top 5 stories in the world of professional wrestling, a.k.a. Run the Ropes. All of that, plus more of your listener-submitted questions. But before we get to any of that, Boston bad boy.
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal. Okay,
Yes.
the Maharajah. Mm-hmm. You know that he won the WWE World Championship.
Yes.
He is only the 8th person of color to ever win the WWE Championship. And there's been like 50 different people.
Yeah, that one goes way back, right?
Way back.
That's the way back one.
Way back.
Yeah. Do you know off the top of your head who the first was?
Sure. The first was Pedro Morales. This was a Puerto Rican gentleman who was huge in the New York area.
Yeah.
People came from all over to see Pedro.
What era are we talking about?
Oh, boy. When Pedro had the championship, you're looking at the 70s.
Okay, so 40 years
70s,
ago.
Yeah.
So
think about it. And that was the first.
That was the first in the illustrious history. That is interesting.
Yeah.
And, what do you think? I don't know.
Well, it's interesting because when we talk about the pro wrestling business, right, whether you talk to people in the business or you talk to fans, they like to shy away from talking about race within pro wrestling. They don't want to talk about that stuff.
Well, I think there's an argument that the best get to the top, and that's just we don't see color.
Yeah, it's just hard work, man.
It's hard work, and anybody can get there.
That's right.
But we know that there's a system in place.
Bingo.
And that system is based on a lot of things.
Yep.
Money being a very big part of it.
Yep.
Revenue and who can generate it has always been, even back in the day.
Yep.
So I venture to say that the fella who was the first back in the 70s, they saw an opportunity to make money.
They could put some butts in seats with Pedro Morales.
Exactly right.
Of course.
So I think that it's not... boy, I have my theories on this kind of stuff, but I think that it's less about being progressive and it's more about who can put the butts in the seats.
Well, to a degree. But at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind that somebody is making the decision. And whatever that person's personal feelings are, just in life in general, you know what I mean? What if your concept of marketability, I hear this often from wrestling fans and even people in the business. Well, the wrestling fan base is mostly white. And they don't want to see people of color be the champion. They're not going to spend their money over a long period of time. Well, it's not as marketable.
Well, this is the same idiotic excuse that Hollywood uses.
Okay.
That Hollywood uses. But I'm gonna throw something at you.
Sure.
Say people of color. In the marketing world, let's talk about that for a minute. And we were talking about this the other day. Uncle Ben's rice.
Oh, my goodness.
Uncle Ben's rice.
Perfect example.
Perfect. We were talking and just joking, and I said, well, we started talking about Aunt Jemima, which is, if you stop and think about it, one of the most ridiculous concepts for a marketing idea. Now, very much of its time, which was probably, I think, the 20s.
Yep.
Aunt Jemima on the box of the syrup or the pancake mix box, and Aunt Jemima has her headscarf on, and because she
looks like a slave.
She looks like a slave.
Yep.
And or at the very least a servant who's in the kitchen, cooking up something. Now, recently there was a redevelopment of the Aunt Jemima, probably maybe 10 years ago, and Aunt Jemima looks like a modern woman, a grandmotherly woman.
Sure.
But she no longer looks
She's not
like
the slave anymore.
No. And they gave her a makeover. But it's still Aunt Jemima. And now think about something. Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben. So then that led me to think about Uncle Ben. Let's see. Uncle Ben, he's got his bow tie on, a grandfatherly gentleman.
Well, Uncle, back in time of slavery in America, that was the term that you gave the elder slave who would serve you.
Exactly.
You just call him Uncle.
We remember the book Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Okay.
So Uncle is not used in any real endearing kind of term. It is a holdover from a very dark time in this country's history, used to sell rice.
Yeah.
And sells a lot of rice.
It was the #1 rice company in America.
Yes.
For over 40 years.
Right.
And it's still in the top 5.
Listen.
To this day.
I venture to say that Uncle Ben was America's first black president because he's in more Republican homes in the South than people who even would vote or think about voting for President Obama. So when people come to getting back to what we're talking about, when people come and say, well,
no one's going to spend money.
No one's going to spend money on a person of color.
Be in the face.
No one's going to spend money on a Denzel Washington movie. How much rice are we pushing? We're making a lot of money on rice.
Seriously.
We're making a lot of money on maple syrup with Aunt Jemima there with her bandana on. Meanwhile, we pull all references out of Tom and Jerry cartoons because we don't want kids looking at that. But we can still sell maple syrup.
It's really ridiculous.
Because what? Oh, so the best part of Uncle Ben's, who will never be a sponsor of the show at this point, but they did a whole thing where they reimagined Uncle Ben. They did a new painting of Uncle Ben.
Sure.
And now Uncle Ben's been promoted to the chairman of the board.
Yeah, he's no longer the servant.
Yeah.
He's the chairman of the board.
Uncle Ben was invented by 3 white guys as a completely fictional character.
Yep.
As the what? The comely, grandfatherly...
servant.
Well, not dangerous black guy.
Yes.
Is what it was.
But what was the marketing piece? His face on the box.
His face on the box.
The black face on the box.
Because who knows rice better than the guy who worked the field?
There it is.
And isn't that what we're talking about?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
That's down home.
Yep. But people bought it.
They still buy it.
So my question comes back, and like you said, we circle back here. This notion that a person of color is not marketable and can't be the face of your company or your brand or what have you, it's really ridiculous.
It's absolutely insane.
And pro wrestling, shame on you.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Because there's no lack of athletes of color.
No.
In the world.
No, right. In pretty much any sport.
No, there's no lack. We're not lacking in that area there. So why haven't we had more?
Horse jockeys. A huge number of horse jockeys are people of color.
Yeah.
Hispanic, black.
Yeah. Think about
horse jockeys.
Horse jockeys.
Arguably the whitest sport in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there aren't a lot of people of color owning racehorses.
That's true.
So, but the folks doing the driving.
Yep.
We can all that money we can put on that. But we can't have the guy be on TV and be, whatever.
It's really scary. It's really scary. So listen, folks, we don't mean to go down the rabbit hole too far there, but the point is
that this is a significant moment.
Yes, in the history of the sport.
In the history of sport and in the history of entertainment in this country.
Yes.
Because there aren't how many black people have won or people of color have won an Oscar compared to whatever.
There is no comparison.
There is no comparison.
There is no comparison.
And arguably, I mean, you're looking at people like Sidney Poitier, who won an Oscar years later.
Supporting Oscar, too.
Yeah. Right. But considered one of the greatest actors in hindsight, it's easy for everyone to do a documentary about, wow, he was changed.
Amazing.
He was amazing.
Sure.
But no one was like, give the guy an effing Oscar while he's alive.
No.
How about that?
Why would you do that, right?
How about that?
Yeah.
It's just, there's a whole thing in entertainment, and it relates because we're talking about sports entertainment that's completely absurd.
Well, it's backwards, and the people who are in charge, you really have to question what's going on here.
You know what's comical to me, and this just occurred to me, going back to rice for a minute. Who's a competing rice company? Zatarans. And what do they use?
Yeah.
They use the jolly black guy playing Zydeco music.
Hello.
And he's the singing and dancing version of Uncle Ben.
Yeah. Yeah. Big time company.
What are we talking about here?
But they market it. People are buying it.
Right.
But you can't have a person of color as your champion of your company there in wrestling? Why?
Yeah. It makes no sense.
Are you kidding me? So, hey, look.
And also, this guy, he's sort of a heel. He's not a hero.
Well, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that and dig into the character and what have you. But the point is, hey, Jinder Mahal, Canadian, Indian, this guy is a Sikh who comes to the ring wearing a turban,
which is a great look, by the way.
And he's the WWE World Champion.
I like it.
How awesome is that?
I like it. Again, I thought the turban is a good look.
Yep.
It's striking.
Yep.
It's different.
Sure.
And you know what? It's genuine. And we do a lot of talking about what makes a good gimmick. The guy actually, he's not playing.
He is all of that.
He is all of that.
He is all of that. That's who he is.
I have a few ideas of what he is and what he isn't, and we'll talk about that later.
That's
but
enough.
I think that we're got a good starting point here, provided they don't F it up as they have been tending to do lately.
So celebrate diversity, and WWE specifically. Hey, let's keep this ball rolling, huh? What's so bad about that? It's time to run the ropes. I give my opinion on the top 5 stores in the world of professional wrestling. Let's go. Mojo Rawley pours soy sauce on Gronk's bare chest and belly. Yes, folks, if you checked out the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page, you saw New England Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski, a.k.a. Gronk. He appeared with his good friend WWE wrestler Mojo Rawley in the new 3LAU video, On My Mind. Now look, in one of the scenes, Mojo pours soy sauce on a shirtless Gronk who's laying on a table covered in sushi and surrounded by scantily clad models. I mean, I'm not making this stuff up, folks. This is legit, and you can head over to the Facebook page and check it out. But I got to ask, Boston Bad Boy, do you have anything for this?
I personally hate Rob Gronkowski, and I think he's definitely
Stop it.
I think he's definitely jumped the shark with this. And I'm also was wondering all day today who shared that stupid video, and it turns out it was you.
It was me.
So now I know. And I should have, I should have thought about it because I should have seen it coming that you would find that interesting. But I think this whole Gronk thing, I think we're in the twilight of Gronk, whatever, because he's going to get injured again, and he's going to be injured that he's not going to be a viable player for
But he
them.
could be a sushi plate for the rest of his life. The Bruiserweight is the UK champion. That's right, folks. If you checked out NXT TakeOver Chicago, Pete Dunne, a.k.a. the Bruiserweight, he defeated Tyler Bate for the WWE UK Championship. And that was easily the best match of the weekend. I mean, first of all, Dunne has a face that even a mother would love to slap, okay? And for that reason, you had all fans booing, but also cheering because it's like, yes, finally we get an old school, ugly, despicable, nasty heel beating up on the babyface and winning. Okay? And speaking of the WWE in the UK, their UK special on the WWE Network is as good a wrestling as you're going to check out anytime, folks, okay? So if you haven't watched yet, please do. Make sure you tune in on Friday nights because it's the best thing going, and congratulations to the Bruiserweight. Asuka defeats Goldberg. Yeah, in a way, NXT Women's Champion Asuka has officially logged 174 wins without a single loss. Okay? She surpassed Bill Goldberg's old streak of 173-0. Can you believe that? She's undefeated, folks. Now look, Asuka celebrated her honor by tweeting out, and I quote, "I respect Goldberg so much. He is amazing. I am honored to be the undefeated champion with the longest streak in WWE history." Ever the gentleman, Goldberg retweeted to Asuka, "The streak is in good hands." Now look, there's plenty of speculation as to who will finally defeat Asuka, okay? I still maintain that it's going to be Ember Moon, but we know that Ember still has that shoulder injury, so we'll see what happens with that. Maybe it'll be Nikki Cross. You never know. But stay tuned to the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page because you know the Duke is going to be on top of it.
I'm curious because I remember when we had Tex Green on, she was talking about how Moolah was the undefeated women's champion for what was that streak?
Years. It was like 25, 27 years. Which is just
so I'm curious.
ridiculous.
I'm curious where Asuka is.
The Asuka thing is legitimate,
right? Well, I'm saying does that eclipse that old record as well? And Asuka doesn't have to worry about someone having to put her in her place.
Yeah, well, she could beat him up for real, though.
Right,
She's
exactly.
Tough. Yeah. Impact Wrestling president pisses off Matt Hardy. Yes, folks, if you saw on the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page, and originally reported by Pro Wrestling Sheep, Impact Wrestling president Ed Norholm, he released a lengthy statement regarding Matt Hardy and the Broken Hardys gimmick. Now, within the statement, he points out the fact that Impact owns the Broken Hardys gimmick. Okay? As you know, Matt Hardy and his wife, they've been going back and forth with Impact Wrestling, claiming that they own the gimmick and that they eventually want to debut it in the WWE. But the WWE is staying away from this one, folks. Now, the question is, do you support Impact leaking the contract? I mean, that was a pretty low blow thing that they did there.
Well, there's got to be a reason for it.
Well, I guess they were just sick of Hardy running them down on social media.
Right. I mean, that's the thing, right? The double-edged sword of social media, because the other guy has it too.
I know. Well, that's the truth.
So, and I think that they were well within their means to release it. But if you're getting down to who owns the gimmick, boy, there's not much way you're digging yourself out of that
it's
on either
bad.
side.
It's pretty bad. And the WWE's not going to put any money in to take it either. They're like, hey, you figure that out.
Yeah,
I'm not touching it.
That's the one thing I'll give them credit for.
Yep. And the number one story in the world of professional wrestling is the Maharajah era begins.
Calgary Shaw.
I have 3 documents to table today. The first one was dated Sunday, May 21st from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois by the WWE Network. Jinder Mahal defeats Randy Orton to become new WWE champion. Second document is from Times of India. I want to represent India and make them proud. WWE champion Jinder Mahal in reference to his WWE Backlash win. Second one, this document from the Calgary Herald, don't hinder Jinder Mahal. He's the first Calgarian professional wrestler to win the WWE championships in 20 years. With the subtext, it's been 20 years since Calgary last saw a WWE champion when wrestling legend Bret the Hitman Hart claimed his 4th title in 1997. I think I speak for all Albertans when I would like to congratulate this talented wrestler from Calgary on his championship win.
How amazing is that?
Everybody banging the tables and gavels and things. They accepted the motion.
Seriously.
So put that in context for us.
You're talking about, first of all, shout out to Graham D. Sucha. He's the legislative assemblyman of Canadian Parliament, one of them at least.
Very excited.
Yeah. This is official business.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Okay?
So he's in that audio comes from the parliamentary procedure.
Yes, it does.
And sort of a C-SPAN kind of moment.
Yep.
But that is in the official books.
That's
now.
in the official
They are officially recognized.
For the entirety of history of Canada, you will be able to see this resolution
It's
celebrating Jinder.
It's the Canadians are such kind people, but they take them. It's sort of like, well, we're going to take a moment. He's a good guy, and we're going to make sure we make sure everything's, and we recognize him for what he's done for Canada.
But this is a big deal, though,
right?
Because when you think about the fact that this is a proud Canadian,
yep,
and a proud Indian, proud Sikh, what does that do for the folks who live there? There's a certain level of pride to say that the world champion is one of us.
Yeah. And again, he follows someone who is such a legend.
Bret Hart. Yeah,
so
Bret Man Hart.
There's that guy. So it wasn't like Bret Hart was a nobody.
No.
He was a legend. And so now they reclaim a bit of that glory.
Bingo. And Bret Hart did a lot for the Canadian economy.
I'm sure.
He really did, because just appearances alone, people would show up just to see him there.
Well, it's the thing. Calgary is a pretty rural part of the world.
Yes.
It's a pretty rough and tumble part of the world. It can be. I mean, it's beautiful, but it's not big city. It's not, it's not East Coast. It's not West Coast. It's its own little microcosm.
So I say one of our native sons
that's right.
is now at the top of the one of the biggest entertainment companies in the world. Make no mistake about it, folks. WWE is like Pepsi. It's like Coke.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're a big brand.
Yeah.
And this guy is at the top of the
From
mountain.
the Great White North.
Yeah.
He comes.
Once again, congratulations, seriously, to Jinder Mahal and his family. Congratulations to all our friends over there in Canada, all of our friends in India. Congratulations. You all have earned this honor because he's one of you.
Well, the nice thing about having this happen, right, in wrestling is that wrestling is so sort of irreverent that it's fun to do it.
Yes.
There's nothing really on the line. It's just like a fun moment where you can say,
Absolutely.
you know what, he's one of us. Look at that. That's a cool thing. It doesn't really, you know what I mean? You don't have to put yourself out there. It's not like you're really choosing a side about anything.
No.
Just like, that's one of our guys.
That's one of our guys. And look at him. He's at the top of a company.
Yeah.
He's the face.
He's the face.
Amazing. You've heard what I think. Now, what do you think? Do you agree with me? Do you think I'm a jerk? Maybe something in between. Why do you always laugh when I ask that question?
Because it should be obvious, shouldn't it?
Oh, my goodness. Head over to Facebook. Head over to Twitter. Type in Duke Loves Rasslin. Let me know. Up next, listen, the legendary referee, NWA executive, and all-around great guy, Mr. James Beard.
This is Rudy Boy Gonzalez of the Texas Wrestle Academy, and you're listening to Duke Loves Rasslin.
James Beard, my brother.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Duke?
Very well, very well. Listen, it's so good to hear your voice again. You've had
good to talk to you.
Yes, sir. You've had a busy 4 weeks, huh?
yeah. I've been going from one end to the other, man. I don't know which way I'm going, and I'm back home now for a change. Hope I can take a deep breath and get a little relaxation for a while.
When do you squeeze in actual time to sleep? I mean, because
well, you know, I'm like Dracula. I hang out of the rafters sometimes and upside down, and you know. No, I don't. It's hard sometimes. You don't know whether you're staying at home or staying somewhere else, and you just kind of catch it when you can catch it. That's about all you can do.
I'm kind of curious. How does a James Beard unwind and relax? A sort of a hobby, you know? Is this, do you collect cookie jars or something when you're not, you know, when you're not laying down the law?
Honestly, you know, I spend a lot of time working on the place out here, doing different things.
Nice.
There's always something to do, you know, maintenance stuff and mowing, or you know, I think being on the tractor is probably the most peaceful time I have.
That's great.
I enjoy that, you know. So it's you know it's kind of nice to be out here and be at home and do the little chores that need to be done and that kind of thing. And to me, that's relaxation.
What's that old Kenny Chesney song? She thinks my tractor's sexy. Remember that one?
there you go. Yeah.
So tell us here, because James, I know that you were at the Cauliflower Alley reunion, and you also were the MC for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame this past weekend.
Yeah. How about that? That was an experience. I'd never done anything like that before. John called me I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Hey, listen, I can't remember who he said was supposed to have done it, and then something happened. They couldn't be there." And he said, "We want you to do it." And I was like, "John, I've never done anything like that before." But he said, "Oh, you can handle it. You know how they are." And then, it went off, I think, pretty well. Everybody seemed to say so. So I was happy with the way it turned out.
Well, you had some heavyweights in the room too. I mean, just a few of the inductees. The legendary journalist Bill Apter. You had Mick Foley. You had our good friend Susan Tex Green, officially inducted.
Yeah.
Tell us some stories.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be around those guys. You know, the people that made this business, and a lot of them are good friends of mine. You know now, and it's nice to see them get rewarded, and it was really a pleasure to be a part of that. You know, so the whole thing went pretty smoothly. Actually, they had I wasn't there until Saturday morning, really early, but they had a deal on Thursday night with Lynn Denton, who did a comedy deal. He goes around kind of like Mick does. He does a comedy act, and then I think Friday they had matches out there. They were supposed to have them under the stars, they said, but it had one of those Texas thunderstorms, and it didn't happen, so they had to move it inside. And I think that went real well. They had like close to 500 people there, I think, in that little pavilion. And then Saturday we had actually I was part of a meeting Saturday morning with some of the board of directors and some of the historians that were there, just kind of drumming out some suggestions to make some changes for the way the process goes for the Hall of Fame and that kind of thing. And then they had I didn't make the merchandise thing where they have pictures and all that kind of business that they sell. And then we had a signing party that lasted a couple hours. So they had a long line for that. And then that night we had the inductions, and everything went really smoothly, really, really well.
Wow, that's amazing. So that was the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame weekend there. And
that was that. And then Sunday, actually, we had the Red Bastille shootout.
Oof.
So that was, that topped it all off. And I didn't stay for the training session, but Tatsumi Fujinami actually did a little training clinic for the guys after that. So it went on and on and on and on and on. Other than that, we didn't do anything this weekend.
So we had Roy Lucier on the show a little while back, and he was mentioning that he talked to you at the CAC, and this guy was going absolutely bananas, meeting all of his heroes. And I'm just curious. So we got the super fan view of it. For you guys that are there, what's that like? You mentioned the card games going on and everyone just hanging out. I mean, is it sort of is it a cool thing on the other side?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's always, to me anyway, I always enjoy being around the fans and especially in situations like that, because they're mostly respectful and they're glad to see you. And that's actually what you do this for. It's all for the fans. You hope
right.
that hope that they are getting as big a kick out of it as you are. It's nice to be appreciated, and when you see fans coming around and they know who you are and want your autograph and take pictures with you and that kind of thing. To me, it's kind of an honor.
Now, Roy dragged his wife along with him. Would you recommend that as a smart thing to do, or because we don't know that we don't really think she came willingly? Actually, we don't know for sure, but it didn't sound like it.
That all depends on your wife. My wife used to go with me occasionally to some of the shows, and then she went to Cauliflower Alley with me one year, and she had enough of it.
Oh, nice.
The problem is that generally, I'm there and I'm seeing all my friends and all this stuff that I'm involved in and everything, and so she's kind of out of that because she wasn't in the business, so she doesn't feel like that she's seen it once and that's enough, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's like a giant man cave, right? All the guys hang together in a giant rented man cave and talk about talk business talk.
Yeah, well, we tell lies to each other and all.
That's
that.
Right.
That's right. And tell us how good we used to be and all that, and how bad things are now, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's really a lot of fun to be around the guys and the gals, that were part of the business and the fans that appreciate that. So anytime I get a chance to do that, to me, it's really an honor.
Well, what's really interesting about you, James, is you're really a bridge. You're a bridge between yesterday and today because you maintain relationships with current talent as well. I mean, you're a guy that you can still referee matches at times and things of that nature too. So that's
true. And I didn't really intend to be, but it kind of turned out that way. And to me, it's been kind of enlightening to be that, because I see I've got the old school association and the feelings and all of that, and yet I see and work with some of the guys that have been around since then, and and I appreciate them as well, and it's been for the most part those guys are really respectful of the experience that I have, and they listen to you and they want to learn from you, and when you're around people like that, then it's a pleasure.
Well, it's deep because you maintain a vast amount of institutional knowledge and history because you lived it,
Well, yeah, I mean, if you've been around it for 30-something years like I have and in it for that long, then if you don't learn something, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, that's the truth. That's the truth.
But there's more to it than that, too. I mean, you got to want to learn. You got to want to absorb all those things and know all those things, and you got to be able to be open-minded about change and that sort of thing. And I think it's just been a real pleasant experience for me overall to be a part of all of that, those two generational, I guess, differences and transition and all of that. It's been fun, and I still enjoy it.
Well, I got to ask you because you know that when we let fans know that James Beard was going to be coming back on the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast, the number one story everyone's asking about, James, and I don't want to put you out there, but I have to. The sale of the NWA to Billy Corgan. All right, this has been one of the hottest news stories of the year. And I got to ask you directly, James, with the NWA transitioning into a new era, so to speak, is James Beard interested in being part of that new era?
Well, the short answer of that is, absolutely interested in doing anything I can to carry it forward. When I got involved with the NWA again a few years ago, my goal was to try to do whatever I could to make it relevant again, and bring it back to the people, and give it some, I guess, some exposure that it hadn't had, and maybe a little bit of guidance that it hadn't had the years before that, because the reputation and the leadership had not been all that great for a few years, and I think we did a lot of things to bring that back around to some respectability. But, the last year or two, we've kind of hit a wall, and a lot of that has to do with economics. We just didn't have the money to do the things we needed to do. And, so this change, in my eyes, is maybe for the best. It's maybe a way to move things forward and do some things that needed to be done to move the NWA back into the limelight a little bit. And if Billy can do that, then and he wants my help, then I'm more than happy to do that. I've talked to him, and he seems to be of the mind that he understands that there's a need for an alternative, and not to follow the same old path that a lot of people have followed in the past. And if that's the case, and he wants me to be a part of it, and I can help, then certainly, I want to do that.
You're hearing exclusive news here from Mr. James Beard, legendary referee, NWA mainstay. I mean, you just heard it there, folks. Billy Corgan. If you're interested in the institutional knowledge, a man that's a bridge for yesterday, today, and tomorrow, James Beard is your man. That's good stuff. Now, James, I did a little research there, and word on the street is that not only are you a referee, not only are you a man who knows a lot about the pro wrestling business from a historical standpoint, but you also, even before you got into wrestling, you were part of a band.
Yeah.
You're a singer.
that's really kind of what led me into the business. I was playing around the Dallas Metroplex, that area a lot, and working for Chardon, which is Charlie Pride's company.
Charlie Pride.
Charlie Pride. They were our booking agent, and we worked with them, and they booked us out and that kind of thing. So I got to know some of the guys, and that's kind of what led me into the business. You know, it was kind of a long process, but it was part of it. But yeah, I played music for a lot of years, and we opened up for just about every major act that came through Texas there for a few years.
Wow, that's amazing. So who are some of the bands that you played with and what have you through the years?
Oh, goodness, that I played with or open?
Well, even open. You were on the bill with some pretty big names. I did my research there.
My band kind of stayed together for the most part, at least the core of it, for about 15 years. I mean, we had some pieces that changed and that sort of thing, but
that's longer than the Beatles, for the record.
Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, but so it was kind of the same band, or at least the core of it was the same band for a lot of years. But we opened for of course Charlie, but and then guys like we worked with George Strait, we worked with Garth Brooks, we worked with Randy Travis. Oh my goodness,
heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah, I mean. It goes on. I can't remember all of them. But
you even played with the Pointer Sisters, huh?
I did.
Can you believe this guy? He played with the Pointer Sisters.
Yeah, that was a really different experience. I don't know why they booked it that way. We were booked in the Lavoisier and Shreveport, or actually Bossier City outside of Shreveport, one of the casinos there, and one of the showrooms. And for some reason, they booked us with the Pointer Sisters. And we were mostly a country band. We did a lot of rock too, but we were mostly a country band. And we opened up for them, and had some fun with them, and it turned out really well. So we got to do that too. So that was fun.
So you're a vocalist. I have to ask, in the country genre, who are your inspirations?
Oh my goodness! I'm an old guy. I go back to the inspiration of most guys from my generation, Elvis and
sure,
and those guys, and even a lot of the old soul singers like Sam Cooke, and then those guys, that's who I listened to when I was a kid, I don't know that I tried to emulate anybody in particular. I just did what I did. B.J. Thomas is another. He was a guy we worked with also.
Oh, wow, that's great.
This dude's all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a pretty good spread of country, rock, classic, soul. Yeah, I mean, all over the place.
Our band was really an old rock band. And if you play in Texas, you better learn how to play some country.
Yeah, country and Western.
Yeah, I'm right.
Yeah. So in the late 70s, we started kind of switching gears a little bit and started doing a lot more country, and that led to a lot of the things that we did later on as far as opening and all that kind of thing is concerned.
Well,
we were an old rock band. Our old keyboard player played a C3 organ and had a helping steel pit, Baby Grand, and all that stuff. And we did a lot of stuff, a lot of different kinds of stuff.
Well, a little known fact about the Duke Loves Rasslin podcast. Duke is a big fan of country music. I myself am a big fan of older country music. My grandfather was into it. Willie Nelson, that was the stuff from way back that I was on.
I worked with Willie Nelson also. So
wow.
We're going to do a music podcast
with James.
Yeah. That's what we have to do. But I was going to say that before the show, oftentimes before we record this podcast, we will listen to a little bit of old country music and compare notes, Duke and I, about what we're talking about. And just recently, we were listening to Glenn Campbell, and we were listening to Wichita Lineman because it was stuck in my head all day. So I had it on as we were prepping the show, and we had a little Glenn Campbell moment.
Oh yeah, I love Glenn Campbell. I don't know if you've seen the documentary about him since when you had.
I did. I've seen. Yeah.
It's an amazing piece of work, and it'll bring tears to your eyes. But especially whether you're a fan of him or not, it's just an incredible thing.
And talk about a guy who's an incredible player, a session guy, Played on the Beach
God,
Boys.
yeah.
I mean, just you know that
Everywhere.
whole
Everywhere.
the Wall of Sound, not the Wall of Sound, the Wrecking Crew documentary is incredible as well. All those guys that played back then. We've gotten totally off the topic of wrestling, but I like it. I like where we're going.
Well,
with
James
this.
is an entertainer. That's,
Well, I mean,
that's the
listen,
point.
he's actually met and hung out with and worked with famous
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
I worked with you, and that's about it. So
Well,
I like listening
I'm
to
big
James'
in Japan.
stories.
I am big in Japan. Not as big as James. but
Godzilla's
close
big in
enough.
Japan
Hey,
too. I
you
don't know what you're saying.
Well, wait. Now, James, since you're a singer and you're a music guy, I know you watch The Voice.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So did you expect the final two to make it to the final two? Tell us the truth there about that.
Hey, buddy, I called it, man. You know, and listen, let me tell you this. I think Chris Blue is an incredible talent. The kid that won it. He's kind of a mixture of, in the way I look at it, kind of a mixture of Michael Jackson and Otis Redding and a little bit of Bruno Mars thrown in there.
Wow,
you know, and
what a mix!
Just a great entertainer. You know, he can do all the moves and got a great voice and that just seems like a really genuine kid. You know, but the one that's going to sell the records is the girl that came in second, Lauren Dusky. She is absolutely unbelievable.
That's the country girl, right?
Yes, yeah. She is going to be one. She's going to be a superstar. I'm predicting that right now.
Wow.
All right, I got one more question for you, music related, and this actually goes back to what you were talking about, bridging old and new as far as the pro wrestling. The state of country music right now, I have a hard time understanding because there are a lot of tropes. There's a lot of tropes we're talking about. You know, we're talking about pickup trucks and tight jeans and every other. You know, there was someone on YouTube did a thing where they laid over all the songs on top of one another, and they were all in the same key. They were all back in the day. Country music was sad for the most part. It was a song about heartache. It was a song about if I can get back to my love, if I can get back to my life. What do you think of the current state of country music writing? I'm just curious, as someone who's worked with folks and lived it.
Well, you know, I don't want to sound like an old fogey or anything. But
I already did.
Yeah, well, I know. Okay, well, I'll sound like it too. The truth is that a lot of the stuff I hear on current country today sounds the same. It sounds like the same session players, the same writers, everything else. Not all of them. I mean, you got the Chris Staplesons and some guys
of course.
out there that are
Shout out to
you know,
Chris. Yeah.
Different. Yeah, but for the most part, to me, the great country music is the storytelling.
Yep.
And you know, and you're right, a lot of it's sad songs and that kind of thing, but it's not all sad.
No.
It's the stories,
right.
You know, and the way it's presented by the artist, and that's exactly why I think this girl that Lauren Dusky is going to be a huge star, and even her coach Blake Shelton was talking about her being the missing link for country, and because she's a writer. She wrote the last song she did on the show, her first single, is something she wrote that's just I mean it's going to be a number one song, and her voice is it's kind of akin to a Trisha Yearwood type, just a incredible voice, and she tells stories in her songs. She's got a lot of emotion in the way she presents it, and she's gonna be a superstar. She may change country music.
Well, Lauren Dusky, if you're listening to the show, James Beard just put his stamp of approval on you. So there you go.
Yeah.
James,
and she's not bad to look at either.
Oh, well, of course. I knew that was going to come eventually there. James, let me ask you, since we're talking about bridging, you know, the different eras, and we're talking about music and what have you, the biggest story in pro wrestling today, all over the world, is the new WWE champion, Mr. Jinder Mahal, a.k.a. the Maharajah. So
how about that?
How about that is right. So let me ask you this question, James, because it's funny. Jinder was a young man in his early 20s who started off in the WWE, and he spent a couple of years there, and then for whatever reason he was released. And then he spent some time on the independent scene before he made it back to the WWE, and eventually see how he just won the championship. In fact, I think he's only been back with the company for about a year now. But you actually had a chance to spend some quality time with Jinder when he was back on the indie scene.
Right.
Tell us about your experiences and impressions with Jinder, because you know this is a pretty big story here, and a guy like you who's so credible and knows the business so well, your perspective would be interesting on him.
Well, you know, here's a guy that like you said, he had a little run with WWE early on, and like a lot of guys, they did whatever they did with him, and then they let him, the future endeavor thing, and then he goes off, and I'm sure that the exposure on TV helped him get a few bookings and that sort of thing, a little bit of notoriety, and like it does a lot of guys. And I met him back, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago when we were doing some different shows here and there. I was working with NWA Houston booking. In fact, I was booking down there, and we booked him in there some. And, I just found him to be a very sincere, very nice fellow. And a guy who wanted to do anything you asked. And they worked hard. He's just one of those guys I like, and he was a guy that when you told him what you wanted in the ring, he gave it to you, in all honesty, he's still got some things to learn. He's still learning as he is now. I mean, even as a world champion right now, he's still what I would call green to some extent. But he's a guy that works hard and does what he's asked, and he's getting rewarded for it. And and frankly, I'm happy to see it. I'm tired of seeing the same old. And I don't watch a lot of WWE anymore, and part of the reason is because I don't want to see the same old every week. It's the same guys and basically the same situations and doing the same things. They just kind of rotate it around a little bit so it looks like it's fresh, but it's really not. And, so a guy like Jinder comes along and does what he's asked, and here's the funny thing. I saw him when he first started back. I went down to Houston to a Raw one night. And in fact, it's the only Raw I've ever gone to that I wasn't in the back somewhere. I set up. And one of the guys got us some tickets, and we went up and set up by the camera, and I watched the show, and he was on I think it was him dark match, if I remember right, put somebody over.
Wow.
And after the show, he and Braun Strowman and Drake Gallows and I can't remember who all was with us now. Carl.
Carl Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah, Carl. We all went out to eat. And, we were just sitting around eating, and all these guys are getting kind of a push, and Jinder's the one guy that's not, and but he was just happy as he could be just to be there.
But he was hanging out with the right guys, huh? How about that?
Well, evidently, and then, all of a sudden this comes up, and I'm just happy to see it. I'm happy to see a guy that works hard get a break, and I'm happy to see the WWE do something a little different for a change instead of the same old.
Well, there's a tradition on this show that the guests who come on usually 99% of the time agree with me, and I'm really glad you're keeping the tradition alive, because the whole thing of WWE being starting to get a little stale in the creative department. I've been saying that for a year now, that we've been doing over a year that we've been doing this show. So I would like to thank you.
It's been going on a lot longer than that. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
This guy's
and I would
putting himself over.
I would like to thank you, a professional legend, backing me up on this. I really appreciate it.
Just give me a break right now, Boston Bad Boy. Just give me a break.
Duke's going to send you a nice fruit basket as a thank you.
Give me a break. What can the younger wrestlers learn from Jinder's example? Because once again, here's a guy who, he had a lot of talent, raw ability, manages to make it into the WWE system, makes it onto the main roster, wrestled on pay-per-views, was on Raw and SmackDown, the whole 9 yards, and then he gets released. Mm-hmm. And instead of giving up, he continued to hone his craft on the indies and bust his butt working for guys like yourself and what have you in the NWA. And then he somehow managed to make it not only back into the WWE, but he leapfrogs, and now he's a champion. What can folks learn from that example as it pertains to the business?
Well, and those things that I talked about that he did, keep your nose clean, do the right things, listen, be easy to work with, not just up there, but in other places, because they understand. They get out, the word gets out to them. They know if a guy's being a hard case out on the indie circuit, or if he's not doing what he's asked, or if he's being a prima donna and all that kind of thing. They talk to people. I know a few people too. And that's, and I'm not the only one. The guys out there that work with the indie promotions that have some connections and those sort of things, they talk and they find out what a guy's doing and what kind of what kind of attitude he has and what kind of life he's living, you know, and you know, so my suggestion is that you, you know, if you want them to pay attention to you, do the right things and work hard and be cooperative, and then when you get the chance, do the same thing when you get there.
Wow.
You know, I mean, if you think about it, when they brought him back in, basically to put people over.
That's right.
I mean, you know, he wasn't exactly pushed when he came back.
No, he was definitely brought in as an enhancement talent once again.
Absolutely, and that's what I got all the fanboys upset, because they think that's what you're supposed to be. If you come back to that, you need to stay there. You know, it's not. They don't think hard work and all that kind of thing means anything to you. You got to be one of their favorites, or you don't get pushed. You know, that kind of thing. Which
is just embarrassing, because and you fanboys out there, seriously, let me tell you something. Ric Flair, Bret Hart, Steve Austin, Daniel Bryan, these are all guys that had to put people over at some point in their lives, and they were quote-unquote enhancement talents at some point in their careers as well, and they did pretty fine, right? So,
well, you know, some of those guys are good examples. Steve, for instance, when he went to WCW, he was very. I mean, he was. They thought he was going to get pushed and all this stuff, and he did for a while, and then he got put into a tag situation that he wasn't happy with at first. I mean, it turned out to be good for him, but he wasn't happy that night, because I know I was with him when it happened.
Wow.
And you know, and he felt like he was being pushed down the ladder again, so he was unhappy there. And then he goes to WWE, and he wasn't happy with the image that he was given to portray at the time, you know, and he felt like he had been held back there, and then all of a sudden, you know, he gets the opportunity, and there you go. But that happens to a lot of guys in different ways, but it happens.
That's the truth.
You know, like I said, keep your nose clean, be cooperative, do the right things. Don't be hard to deal with, and you know, you may get a chance, and if you get a chance, then make the best of it.
Yes, sir.
And that's kind of what Raj is doing. You know, he's making the best of it, and you know, I'm happy for him.
Man, when you say Raj, you're talking about Jinder Mahal. You just call him by his real name there.
Yeah.
Listen, James, if young talent wants to pick your brain, or even if there are folks out there who want to reach out and figure out how they can continue to push for you to be part of the new NWA, because let's face it here, there is a strong appetite all over the world. And I mean this because I've spoken to a lot of people all over the world, especially in Japan. There are a lot of people all over the world who are very serious. They want James Beard to be a part of the new NWA, because we need somebody who has that institutional knowledge, who has that connection to the past, who can help usher in the new generation there.
Well, I appreciate that, and if there are people out there that feel that way, then I appreciate their feelings, you know, about it. And you know, that's what I'm here for. I've had a career. You know, I've done everything I can probably ever hope to do as far as myself is concerned. And, you know, I'm happy with that. You know, however anybody wants to view it or take it, you know, I'm happy with what I've done and what I've accomplished, you know, and so, you know, basically I'm still here to do exactly that, help whoever I can help. And I've been trying to do that, even, you know, whether they're NWA or not. I have people call me all the time and ask advice, you know, and I don't have a problem with that, and I'm happy to give it if I can help, then that's what I'm going to do, you know. And to me, that's what you do when you get to this point in your career, your life. You know, you try to pass it on.
For the past couple of weeks, we've been talking about training and younger wrestlers coming up, and we've been talking to a lot of trainers and talking about how some people coming up don't take advantage of all the opportunities they're presented as far as committing to the training and doing the right thing. And as a quick message, if a guy like James Beard is offering to give him a call and he'll talk to you and give him some advice, take it. I think this is going to go back on to continuing our rant about when you see something good, take it and commit to. It also means taking advantage of when legendary folks want to bestow a nugget on you. Take it. Ask for it and get it.
Yeah, I'm not hard to find. I'm on Facebook. You know, and if somebody sends me a message on Facebook, I'll get back to you. You know, I can't. I get a lot of guys calling wanting me to book them here, book them there. Well, I'm not really booking anywhere right now, but I will. You know, I will help. You know, give them advice or I'll put the word out if they're worthy of that and that kind of thing. and I'll do what I can to help anybody as far as that goes, as far as I can in that capacity. But I don't discount anybody. If they contact me and they want to talk and they want to ask a question or whatever, then I'm more than happy to try to help if I can.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. His name is James Beard. He's a legendary referee, executive at the NWA, and a good singer on top of that. Thank you, James.
Well, it's been a pleasure. I'm here anytime for you guys as well. So, anytime we can get together, it's always a joy.
What a class act James Beard is.
Absolutely.
I mean, just...
Yeah, I kind of want to go out to the farm and
of course
drive around on the tractor and just hang out in the sunshine.
I want to hang out at the music bars with him.
No kidding.
You know what I mean? He knows everybody.
You know what? We should go down and do a little cowboy karaoke.
Oh, dude.
How cool would that be?
Can you imagine that?
He stopped loving her today.
All right, don't do that.
I could do it.
Don't do that, please. Jesus.
But if we're with James, we're not going to get...
Yeah,
no one's going to mess with us.
James will do the singing, okay? We'll just be the
no
guy
one will mess
standing
with
around.
us.
Well, that too, because James will beat them up. You got that right. Folks, up next, we have more of your listener-submitted questions, a.k.a. Ask Duke. But before we get to any of that, you know what time it is. I know you're hungry. I can hear those stomachs growling. Head over to Barnyard Cheese. That's right, Barnyard Cheese over in New York City.
Okay, stop right there.
Uh-oh.
Nope, you gave him a nice shout-out where you should just move the show on. I don't want to hear about any, all these weird, this sandwich that you like to talk about. I don't want to hear about it.
The Figgy Piggy.
That's fine.
The Duke.
No!
The
stop.
Duke sandwich.
No, I'm cutting you off. You should, you were fine with the Figgy Piggy.
Oh.
You should have just quit while you were
Stop
ahead.
it. The gingeroo, you could wash it down with a gingeroo.
They have delicious sandwiches.
Sure.
They have about 500 delicious sandwiches that aren't the Duke sandwich. Eat one of those.
Oh.
Don't eat the Duke sandwich.
Don't
Get out
let
of
him
here.
bully you into anything, folks. Head over to barnyardcheese.com. You can check out their fantastic menu.
Like the knuckle sandwich.
No.
That's the
there's
sandwich I
there's
designed.
no knuckle sandwiches. No
Delicious,
knuckle sandwich.
and you know what? Gets to the point.
And when you head over there, tell Double D Dave Davis Duke says hello. Enjoy.
Hey everybody, this is Rudy Russo, and you're listening to Duke Loves Rasslin. How do you like them, Montana?
So, Boston Bad Boy, you've been getting a lot of attention on social media lately, especially on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah.
You know I don't Twitter, so I really couldn't care less.
Yeah, but
No,
hear me out here.
Listen.
You know?
I asked the questions at this part of the show. We're gonna go to questions.
Before we get to the questions, I got to tell you this is funny. This is funny, and because I have you on air,
anytime you go to
can't
Twitter,
run.
I have a feeling I know where this is going to go. And if it is, I'm putting a stop to it. I'm telling you right now.
Well, you can't run, so we got you right now. One of our loyal listeners, Dingo.
Oh, please. No.
Okay.
No, we're moving on.
You got to.
I don't even want to hear his name.
I got to let you know what Dingo's been saying about you lately, pal. This is
As
good
if
stuff.
I care.
This is good stuff. Listen to this. Listen to this. And I can't even do a Dingo voice. I'm not even going to try.
Well, I'm Dingo here. I'm
Stop
from New
it.
York.
Stop it.
From New York.
Stop
I'm from
it.
Jersey City. I'm
Leave
Dingo.
him alone. I like Dingo.
What did Dingo have to say?
Stop it.
From Jersey.
Listen, so Dingo says, the Boston Bad Boy preys upon the weak.
Please.
I shall face this coward. I shall face his coward ass.
Wow.
And he shall be humbled.
Did he just admit that he was weak?
Well,
because he's obviously feeling a little
I
preyed
don't
upon.
think that's what he means by that.
Oh, he's clearly weak.
He will kneel to me. Tell him, Duke, the reckoning is coming.
Is this guy out of his effing mind? What is wrong with this guy? Does he not have a life?
He's the best.
Isn't he somebody's father?
Yes, he is. Dingo Jr.
He's
good kid.
He's a grown
good kid.
This is a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
And this is what he spends his time doing?
Well, he's not happy with
That's
you.
what's wrong with this country right now.
He's not happy
Productivity is down
Stop
because
it.
people are just...
Stop
it. Get a life!
Leave Dingo alone.
Please.
Okay?
Leave Brittany alone.
So he wanted you to know what was going on
Please.
there.
I don't need Dingo to tell me what's going on.
Well,
I know what's going on. I'm the one who tells him what's going on.
Well, it's funny that you say that. So here's what happened, folks, and I know that a lot of you have been following on
and
Twitter.
I know a lot of people are sick of Dingo and interrupting our show, even talking about this. He's an oxygen thief, Dingo.
One guy who's also a loyal listener who's sick of Dingo, and he did something about it, is R.J. Krasinski.
Really?
So RJ,
Yeah.
you know, he's reached out to the show a few times
Sure.
and he tweets about us all the time. Good
Okay.
guy,
Yeah.
real good guy.
Yeah.
So he's taken offense to Dingo calling you out,
Absolutely.
which is very strange, by the way. I can't believe that somebody
You know what?
actually cares about
It's
you.
called being on the right side of
Oh,
history.
give me a break.
That's what it's called.
RJ's confused. Well, listen to what he tweeted back to Dingo. What does Dingo even stand for? Damn, I'm not good looking, obviously. See what he did there? He took the first letter of
I like that. And it's an acronym.
It's an acronym. See that? So Dingo is so bad, he's making this Yankee fan side with the Boston bad boy.
Do you see that? Do you see this? Dingo is so below, he has no idea what it would take for a Yankees fan to agree with me. And he's put someone in that position.
All right. That's enough. I don't know why you're talking about Dingo like this.
You brought Dingo up.
Well,
Now we're on a Dingo.
Well, you know what? Dingo actually blocked R.J. Krasinski.
Of course he did.
Sick of his.
You know
his
why? Because
nonsense.
Dingo needs to be in his own little self-serving bubble where people only agree with him.
Stop.
He's encircled by this invented, insane hate, very similar to your feud with professional wrestlers.
Well, Roman Reigns and Micah Madrid, they are both.
No, it's the same thing.
Pumped up
Do you see the
punks from
kind
the
of
gym.
people you draw
Who need
into
to
your
get out
circle?
of my life.
These are the people you draw into your circle. People who are as crazy as you, and I got to listen to it from Dingo.
Well, so you're going to say that R.J. Krasinski's not crazy?
I'm Dingo. Oh, RJ, I got to
Oh,
block
stop it.
RJ.
Don't-
RJ don't. Oh,
don't do that.
He's upset. Oh.
Dingo sounds better than that. Don't do that.
No, he doesn't.
Don't do that.
Dingo,
Stop it.
please.
All right. What's going on with Ask Duke? That's enough of this.
Ask Duke is over. You ruined Ask Duke.
No.
That's what you did. You ruined it.
Let's see what we have. You got
Let's
some
see.
questions there. I gave you some questions.
Oh, let's see. Here's a good one. This one happens to be from someone by the name of R.J. Krasinski.
What?
He's a favorite listener of mine.
Are you kidding
And
me right now?
Let's see. I'm going to read off one of his questions here because it happened to be in my pile. I didn't look it up real quick right now. Asks Boston Bad Boy, why is Dingo a ham and egger? You know, that's a good question, RJ. And I think I have about 20 or 25 minutes to explain it. So
That is so
let's start at the
disrespectful.
beginning.
That is
Dingo,
so disrespectful.
Dingo is a man who's probably
No.
tweeting from his mother's basement.
No,
Let's
all right,
start
all
there.
right, all right,
And
that's
Dingo
enough.
has
Stop
no
that.
life,
Stop
clearly.
that.
And people
You
who are
know,
sophisticated
No.
and intelligent and
You're
well-spoken,
not
like
gonna
RJ
call- no.
and the Boston Bad Boy,
No,
who I will take this time to
I'm not
speak of
gonna
myself in the third
stop
person.
it right now.
That's he's a ham and egger, and that's the best. You know how
That is offensive. You don't
Did you
call
know-
Dingo a ham
Did you
and
know
egger.
if you rearrange the letters in ham and egger, it spells dingo?
All right. You know what? Move on.
You move on.
What's
You
the
know what?
next
I'm going to
question?
move on. You know
Yeah,
how
please.
you know how I'm moving on? I'm moving on to my question.
Oh, my Buddha. Here we go.
Yeah. I'm moving on to my question. Because we spent I'm a little PO'd because I was having such a good show. It was all positive vibes.
Yeah.
And you know, I was willing to let this go today. I really was. I was going to get into that transcendental meditation type stuff, that kind of stuff, that Indian kind of vibe.
Yeah, the
very
good stuff.
relaxed, the
The
good
good
stuff,
stuff,
the
sure.
relaxed, the going to a higher plane of consciousness.
Sure.
Maybe being, maybe letting some inner strife go. But Dingo,
Oh.
and you, because you know, in the end, you're the one to blame for all this because you bring these people into the circle with your tweets and all
I
this
like
stuff.
Dingo. Okay? I like Dingo.
That says a lot. Nobody likes Dingo. You know who hates Dingo the most? Dingo. Self-loathing. So we spent the entire show talking about Jinder.
Jinder Mahal, the Maharajah.
Big news. Top of the world, ma. Top of the world. A Canadian.
Yes.
Very polite.
Yeah.
As they all are.
Hey.
Exactly, right. And he is the only, I will say only, the 8th person of color in WWE history to win the championship.
True.
And he's also the second man of Indian heritage to win, right?
Yes. Great Khali won the champ. He was the first Indian.
Okay. And that was a while ago.
Yeah.
And we were talking about earlier in the show how this belt goes way back.
Way back.
So if you divide the number of years by the number of people, it's not a good ratio.
Okay.
When, we live in a world, and if we're talking about a belt that represents a world champion, the world is a diverse place. So Jinder has made history. And he's also the first Sikh, by the way.
Shout out to all the Sikhs out there who are listening. We appreciate you.
Yeah, the Sikhs they're sort of a pacifist group.
Yes.
A religion.
Yes.
It's a religion. And they are, I think, unfortunately, in a lot of ways. There's been some misconstrued stuff in the news with the current climate, let's say. So, but I always have seen comments and things from the Sikh community who always say that, we stand with everybody. They get along with everybody. Our whole thing, our thing is we get along with everybody.
Yes.
That's one of the major tenets. We get along with everybody. It's not a religion that is sort of closing themselves off to other things.
Agree.
So that's pretty cool to have that element come in because it's an element of acceptance, and as somebody who represents that kind of element, that needs to be more out there. I don't care if you're a religious person or not. The acceptance angle, everyone can get on board with that.
I agree with that.
So here's my question to you.
Oh, boy. I know the other shoe's going to drop.
No, because, again, we talked about this at the beginning of the show. We talked to James Beard about it a little bit because he worked with Jinder a little bit, and he knows him. And, he's a hardworking guy. We know that. Dedicated guy. He was in, he was out, he came back in. He worked on himself. He stuck with it.
He lives up to the ideals of being a Canadian Indian Sikh.
Handsome as all get out.
Yeah.
Big
handsome
fella.
Guy. Yeah. Sure. Women love him.
Sort of a rock physique almost. He's got that kind of just
absolutely
shoulder presence.
Muscles upon muscles.
And so what I want to know, with all that going for him, the movie star looks, the cool turban thing, the Canadian angle, why is he being pushed as a heel?
Well, because you need a heel, and I mean, Jinder does a good job being a heel. I don't really understand the question. It's pro wrestling. What do you want?
But we talk a lot about, and I mentioned this earlier. We talk a lot about good gimmicks having an inherent thread of the person inside of them. You know what I mean? The person's actual life experience and who they are is the beginning of a good gimmick.
Sure.
You can't force a gimmick on somebody.
No.
You can't do it.
It ain't gonna work.
And we were talking about Roman Reigns and all that. That's a prime example of forcing a gimmick on somebody and it not quite gelling because there's something missing there.
Sure.
There's something the personal. So here you get a guy who has two interesting aspects to him. A, he's Canadian, widely regarded as the kindest, nicest people on earth, and two, he's a Sikh, widely regarded as the most peaceful, one of the most peaceful religions on earth.
Sure.
Kind, about inclusion and community. He's the heel?
All right.
Why are we going to force a heel onto a guy who naturally exudes the face?
It's pro wrestling. I mean, look, he's bigger, he's more handsome. I can understand why maybe some people would want to boo him, or maybe the company believes that people would want to boo this guy. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Why? All right. Why would the company, who you won't name, which we'll get to that, why would the company believe that? Let me think. Why would the company believe a guy with dark skin wearing a turban? Why would they think people would boo him?
You're not going to turn it into that, I hope. I hope you're really not going to turn it into that.
Have you noticed that the majority of champions of color, those who have come up, those who have been big-time guys, have an anti-American slant? Think about it.
No.
Iron Sheik, who is an interesting fellow altogether. Yokozuna, the great Khali, now Jinder. These guys are big-time guys. These are guys that were fighting Hulk Hogan. These are guys who are working top level. These were not just ham and eggers. These guys were big guys. But part of their gimmick was that they were anti-American. Part of the gimmick was tuning into that, at that time, like, say, Iron Sheik, the Cold War, the Reagan stuff. Tell me why. Let me think. Why would a guy wearing a turban with dark skin in this climate, jump in anytime you want.
All right.
Why would we put an anti-American slant? Are we hoping that people think he's a Muslim?
Stop it. Well,
Are we hoping that Vince McMahon thinks that that a majority of middle America who voted for Donald Trump might think that Jinder is a Muslim?
No.
A Muslim.
No.
Am I allowed to say Muslim on this show? Because I know that a lot of times, you know, in this political climate, people are afraid of that word.
Listen, first of all, shout out to all of our Muslim friends out there who listen. We know we have plenty of you all over the world. They're not trying to say that. They've never said that Jinder's a Muslim.
Just like Trump never said the word Israel when he was talking about the Israeli intelligence he gave to the Russians.
But
he never said Israel.
I think that's important because
they never said Muslim.
And obviously, WWE does have a history of when they have Muslim wrestlers, with the exception currently of Sami Zayn, they tend to put them in heel gimmicks. I get that. I get that you're going there, but that's not what's going on with
You
Jinder.
mean to tell me that they're going to say that he's Canadian, so that's why he's anti-American? Canadian?
Well,
the most anti-American thing Canada has ever done was win the Stanley Cup, okay?
Right.
That's the most anti-American thing they can do.
You're telling me Jinder Mahal can't be a heel because you got a problem with the fact that he has all these other things going for himself? Why can't he be a heel? Anybody can be a heel.
He can be a heel.
Okay.
He can
What's
be
the
a heel.
problem?
Tell me what in his personality makes him a heel other than he's brown, wearing a turban.
Oh, my God.
Tell me what else would make him a heel naturally. What else would naturally in him fit that gimmick? Tell me.
Why
No,
are you doing that?
No, I'm asking
Why
you.
are you trying to twist the whole concept around
Because
here
the
like
concept
this?
is idiotic. Okay, the concept is stupid because what it's doing is a disservice. Because what Vince McMahon, Vincent Q. McMahon, as I like to call him, is trying to do is trying to, well, you know, we don't have a good-looking built Muslim guy, and if I put a Muslim guy as the bad guy, boy, that might not really go over too well. But if I put a guy that sort of seems like a Muslim guy, well, I don't have to actually say Muslim, and I'll put asses in the seats. All these guys chanting, build the wall, and don't let him in the country, and all this crap. That's who Vince McMahon's going. By the way, that's who Vince McMahon is targeting as the future of the WWE fan base. He's out of his effing mind. I'll tell you that right now.
So you're telling me that it's a negative thing to make Jinder Mahal the champion? Let me just make sure I'm clear here. Okay? Are you trying to say that you don't support
Sean
Jinder Mahal
Spicer.
being champion?
Take it
Because,
easy with these
look,
alternative
Vince
facts.
McMahon went and
Jinder
put
Mahal-
a person of color, a Indian, Canadian Sikh as his face of the company. He should be commended for doing that because, look, that is a progressive, fantastic thing to do.
You know, we should
That
really
is-
congratulate Uncle Ben's Rice for putting a black
Oh,
man's face
come
on a
on.
major label and being the face of a giant global conglomerate. Shouldn't we do that? That's what we should do. We should thank them for putting a black person's face out there, right? We should just, they're doing, Aunt Jemima, boy, that was really progressive. That really did a long way of putting a black woman's face on there. It was like the Harriet Tubman of the marketing world. Are you out of your friggin' mind? Make the guy the champion. Do it for the right reasons. Do it because he naturally has the skill, he naturally has the personality, and play to those strengths. They have lost their way, they being the WWE, of trying to figure out what the gimmicks are that work. And they're forcing this on him because Vince sees the easy buck playing people's emotions, playing people's fears. And you know what it does? It does a disservice to not only Canadians, for its kind of people, but do we really want any more confusion between quote-unquote radical Islam and Sikhs? Is that what we want? We want people to conflate the two so that people think that a guy wearing a turban walking down the street, oh, he must be one of those, one of those anti-Americans because that guy on TV is one of those anti-Americans. To make a buck? You're telling me we're selling the country's soul down the river to make a buck, Vince McMahon? I mean, listen, he supported Trump, so we're not that far from maybe that being the truth.
Enough.
You know what? I think it's gone wheels off the wagon with this stuff. And you know what? You know what, Vince McMahon? Get with the times. Refresh. Learn how to write a goddamn gimmick. Will you, for crying out loud? Stop going for the low-hanging fruit because it makes no sense. And you know what's going to happen? Other organizations who are being more progressive, who are being rebuilt, NWA comes to mind, are not going to be rebuilt with this dinosaur mentality. And you know what? They're going to make a run at the WWE, and I hope they put a pin in their balloon because it's going to happen. This can't last. Hopefully Triple H or somebody comes up with a turnaround on this because it's absolutely unbelievable.
That's it.
Don't even get. You got me started with Uncle Ben's, and now I'm on this whole thing.
I'm done. I'm sick of this guy.
I'm not done.
He's sitting here. When you disrespect Vince McMahon on my program, I got to pull the plug.
But Vince McMahon can disrespect two religions.
All right.
Two religions. That's what we're going to do. Oh, yeah, okay. That's nice.
Thank you to James Beard for joining us this week. Folks, you can head over to the Duke Loves Rasslin Facebook page, the Twitter page. Let us know. Do you agree with the nonsense that the Boston Bad Boys spitting out about Vince McMahon?
Yeah, you want to be on the right side of history?
Do you support Vince McMahon and I in saying that this is just pro wrestling? There's nothing offensive going on. It's just pro wrestling.
You're
Come
out of
on,
your
guys.
mind. You're out of your mind.
It's just pro wrestling.
Just pro wrestling.
Well,
How many
next
people
time,
watch
folks.
pro wrestling?
Yeah, but
how
I
many
think
kids are
you kinda
exposed to
went a
this
little
stuff?
far
We
with
can't
that,
even put that.
accusing